Hockey Town, it's a place where dreams are found. We fought so many battles here, now we're the ones that they will fear. The cup resides within our town, we won't stop no letting down. The cup is ours, we're all to drink. It's our time, let's rock this ring.
Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Hockey Town Rundown. You're here with us, your beautiful hosts, once again, Matt, Carlo, and Zack. I almost said Derek's name because Matt misses Derek.
I miss Derek.
Do you miss Carlo too, Matt?
Of course I miss Carlo, but Carlo's on the recording with me and Derek's not, so I'm eagerly waiting for him to come back.
Fair enough. What's up, boys? How's everyone's weekend going? Not all at once now. Come on.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Nice little 4th of July celebration we've had here in beautiful lake country in Michigan. Pretty much every single day this weekend I've been on the lake watching fireworks, throwing back some brewskis. It's been absolutely amazing. Actually had a lot of Red Wings news too, so that was a nice surprise as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Carlo, what's up?
It's been a weekend, man. It's been a crazy one. Thankfully, we have a lot of Red Wing news, like Matt just said, to kind of get us through. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to cover it all, summarize it all, and run it all down for y'all. And we'll keep things interesting, keep things hot-taked as per usual, and we'll keep it rolling, as Fred Durst once said. Take it away, Zack.
Who's going to have the hotter take today, Matt or Carlo? Let us know down in the comments below before you make it to the end of this episode. But before you continue watching this episode, we want to say thank you for stopping by. If you are returning, if you are new, thank you for joining us today. We really do appreciate all the love and support that we have received these last few days over the holiday. Yes, it's been absolutely fantastic.
Claps
but if you are new, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now for more NHL and Red Wings related topics, and then hit the thumbs up button. Let's try and get this over 20 thumbs up. That really does help us out. We really do appreciate it. You can find us on Spotify. If you're on there, we are on YouTube as well, Apple Podcasts. We're also on all the social medias, mainly on Twitter, but we are on Facebook, Instagram, Threads even, surprisingly. Did I say Facebook? I don't know. We're on all of them. But yeah, we also have our merch store where you can go and get yourself this lovely hat, which we are doing a giveaway for currently right now. If you are on Twitter, go ahead and follow us on Twitter and then enter in that giveaway. All you have to do is subscribe, retweet the tweet, and yeah, that's it. We did do a Twitter giveaway actually earlier this week, and we will be announcing that winner on Twitter earlier or later today. So be on the lookout for that. We will be DMing you. So be on the lookout. Keep your DMs open. And so without further ado, boys, yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the stuff. So as you guys can tell, based on what it says down below, the rundown today, we're going to go ahead and talk about the Red Wings related topics like the Tyler Motte signing, Vladimir Tarasenko becoming a Red Wing, Robby Fabbri being traded, Pavel Datsyuk being at development camp, all that good stuff, and then the Yzerman press conference as well. And so, boys, let's jump into it. And so, like I said, the Detroit Red Wings signed Tyler Motte to a 1-year deal worth $800,000. He was I believe, Tampa Bay Lightning, played under 70 games, I believe. I think it was like 69 or something like that. So super nice number there for Tyler Motte.
Super nice.
I don't have his numbers pulled up, but depth signing right away. But I know that he's a gritty guy, can play on the PK. He was a fan favorite down there for the Bolts. So I think that this is a really good signing for the Red Wings and brings some grittiness to the bottom six, bottom lineup, wherever he's going to be placed. So, boys, touch on Tyler Motte real quick.
For me, Tyler Motte is what I'm hoping for and what I'm kind of seeing based off of looking into him and his play, his role. To me, Glendening 2.0, which absolutely thrills me. I was a huge Luke Glendening fan when he was on the team. Still am. I think he's just a great player. But a defensive powerhouse, man. Like he was just incredible playing the role he was designated to play. And I really kind of get the same vibe from Tyler Motte, which is obviously something Yzerman wanted to address, was like not just team defense, he wanted to address team defense, not just the defensive corp. So that's cool. Like I really think that he can bring a lot of value to our forward group, but with a full defensive role, just like Lucky Luke, man, just like Lucky Luke. I'm really, really excited to watch him play, see what he can do, and see what he can accomplish defensively. It's gonna be fun.
Motte is not as big as I thought he is. He's only 5'10", but he is 192 pounds. So that's pretty much me, but just an extra like 20 pounds added onto him plus that.
He's a unit. He's basically like he's a unit with a low center of gravity. We're gonna take that all day, boys.
He's a bowl of oatmeal. Yeah, he's a bowl of oatmeal for sure. But in 69 games, I was correct at least on that. He put up 6 goals, 3 assists for 9 points. He was a -8, and then in the playoffs, he played in 5 games and put up 1 goal. So, yeah, Matt, go ahead. What do you got on Tyler Motte?
Well, yeah, just to touch on him, I kind of looked around Twitter when the news broke. I think it was like the official NHL account broke it, and I saw so many fans of the Tampa Bay Lightning replying, just being like, why the heck did Brisebois not do this deal if it only costs $800K? Like, this guy, apparently he was like one of their fan favorites. Like, they really, really liked his game over there. And it's pretty easy to see why they like him. Like, he is such a hard checking forward, great two-way forward. I mean, he's really a great penalty killer. And I think that's really the main reason they've gotten him here is he can kill penalties like no other. So he's really going to help that PK. Yeah, not a whole lot of offense that he brings, but I watched a few highlights of him, and he actually has a sneaky, like, really good shot. And I don't really know how he hasn't scored more goals. Maybe he just doesn't really shoot a whole lot. I didn't really look into his deeper analytic numbers, but yeah, he's actually got a sneaky good shot. So I think he's going to be a really good piece there on the fourth line, playing with Fisher, and I think whoever else is going to be down there, Kopp, Rasmussen, whoever center is going to be, maybe Veleno. So we'll see. It'll be interesting how it shakes out. Definitely like a more of a utility player, more than like like chipping in offensively. But I think he's a good fit. And of course, we have to mention he's a Michigan-born boy. So there you go. He's reunited with his teammate Andrew Kopp. Now all we need is Kyle Connor back, and we can recreate that very exciting Michigan line from whatever that was, 2013 or 14. And yeah, I guess this is just a precursor to Kyle Connor coming over. So
that would be huge. That would be so huge.
Matt makes a really good point, too, because not soon after, I think it was like a day later, the Detroit Red Wings signed Vladimir Tarasenko to a 2-year, $4.75 million deal where him and Tyler Motte and Patrick Kane all played together. And I believe Gustafsson, maybe I'm wrong, all played with the New York Rangers together.
You might be right, yeah.
So the Red Wings are assembling. It once was the St. Louis Blues championship team. Now it's the New York Rangers secondary team, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, or the A team, as I like to call it.
Yeah, that kind of scares me because the Rangers are also just like the Bruins, a fraudulent team. So, but if anything, this just tells me that this is the pitch to get Jacob Trouba over. Just like Yzerman saying, hey, buddy, you get all your former teammates. Don't you want to come over and join them?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We know that his wife is in her residency, so that's always tough to get out of. Yeah. So she would have to stay over in New York. But Carlo, it looked like you wanted to touch on that real quick too. So go ahead.
Sorry, the Trouba or the Tarasenko?
Whichever you wanted to speak on.
I was just going to say the Tarasenko signing really excites me. I will say I do owe Vladimir Tarasenko an apology because I used to hate on him and dog him all the time, and it was for one reason and one reason only. He always used to blow my fantasy. He would just suck. I would go after him, brand power, and it would be the year where he's not having a good time, or injury, whatever. I owe you an apology after putting the emotions aside and actually taking a look at the player for who he is and what he does. What excites me the most with Vladimir Tarasenko is he's not too far removed from an 82-point season with the St. Louis Blues. And then even the years after that, leading up to where we are today, his numbers aren't bad. I think the teams he's played for could have been a little bit better. I think the team I'm talking about, but he still had a decent showing there. And just looking at what he did, even in Florida for whatever under 20 games, it's Tarasenko. He's got that brand power that we always talk about. Certain players have. He's the type of guy that has earned his respect, and it's at this point you kind of have to give it to him. And I think there's going to be a lot of big-time Tarasenko fans in the D once we see a full season of him. It's going to be pretty wild. So I'm really excited for Tarasenko. And then you mentioned, the Trouba thing. I mean, Patrick Kane played in New York with Tarasenko and Trouba. Obviously, we have Tarasenko now. I respect Trouba and what he's doing. It's kind of crazy what Rangers fans are doing, bashing Trouba.
Oh,
Matt, I think you sent the tweet out. Like it was some dude blasting Trouba, and it's like, wait a second, dude, why aren't you blasting the GM who signed the deal? Like, offered him the contract. Why are you blasting the player? I'm like,
and he's blasting the player for not being traded and moving the $8 million deal. It's like, that's also on your GM, my dude.
Well, listen, I mean, Trouba has pretty much the best excuse ever to stay in New York. Like, he is there not only to play, but also to support his wife's medical career. Like, his wife is going to be like a brain surgeon or heart surgeon or whatever she's studying, but the world needs more of those too. Surgeon.
You know, like, respect that.
Yeah, so like, you have to respect.
All right, going off a little topic there, but going back to Vladimir Tarasenko, I mean, yeah, this is a guy that really fits well with the Detroit Red Wings in their top 6. He's 6 foot tall. He's like 220 something pounds. So he's a bowl of oatmeal too. 225 pounds, shoots left, obviously from Russia, 32 years old. A lot of fans are saying, you know, we would have loved to have had the signing done 5 years ago, but make no mistake, a 32-year-old Vladimir Tarasenko can bring a lot to your top 6, especially for the Detroit Red Wings. And Carlo mentioning, you know, playing with Patrick Kane, that chemistry is there, even if it was only for a little bit of time. You got JT Compher as your 2C. If that's even where Vladimir Tarasenko goes, I guess I should bring that up too, boys, right? But for Vladimir Tarasenko, Carlo, you mentioned, you know, he definitely could have been put in maybe some better situations with some of his former teams, like the New York Rangers, the Senators, the Florida Panthers. He was almost a point per game player, but in that time last season, in 76 games, he put up 55 points. So not too far off from a point per game player. But where do you guys see Vladimir Tarasenko fitting in this roster? Do you see him being the second line left wing? Do you see him being the top line left wing? We know that Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane have really good chemistry together. We liked watching them play with Dylan Larkin last year. So where do we see the fit here?
You're going to see flips. I think you're going to see looks all over the place.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it's got to come down to the proper balance between the line. So I think if you're going to have Patrick Kane and Tarasenko on the same line on the wings, you need to have a very strong two-way centerman in between them to cover their butts. Obviously, Patrick Kane, not back checking. Tarasenko, I don't know, maybe. So I feel like a line between Compher centering Kane and Tarasenko. I really am confident in the ability of that line because I am very confident in JT Compher and his two-way game. So I feel like you need to have that balance there. But I do think you're going to see looks where Tarasenko might pop up to the top line with Alex or Kane obviously popping up there with Alex. I think the power play is what's going to be really, really fun to watch because if you can have, you know, a Larkin, DeBrincat, Tarasenko, Kane, and then Gustafsson power play, that's lethal.
Or Sider, whichever one you want to pick. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like Gustafsson might quarterback PP1, and I'm hoping that I'm wrong. Like I would love to see Mo quarterback that eventually. But I think time will tell on that one. As you boys know, seeing is indeed believing. But either way, I think if you have those 4 forwards as your first power play unit, that's nuts, man. Like that is nuts. And obviously you got to kind of spread it out, but I really think Raymond can command and control PP2 and still be just as effective. But we'll see. I think you're going to see a bunch of different looks to kind of find the right mix. But yeah, that's what I think. Matt, what do you think? Where do you got Tarasenko slotting in?
Boy, I think no matter where you slot him in, I think that DeBrincat and Kane need to play together. No matter if it's on the first line, the second line, wherever it is. I think those two have undeniable chemistry and they should play together. But yeah, this is why I'm glad I'm not a coach because I have no idea really where to put him. I think the nice thing about this is the Red Wings finally have so much talent they can move things around and still have really effective lines no matter what. So I think trying him out on the first line, that might be a good idea. I think it's important to know that this is really not the same Tarasenko we're getting, you know, from 3 or 4 years ago. He had major shoulder surgery, but yeah, that his game hasn't changed. He's still a pure scorer. That's what he does on the ice. Like we've seen his defensive numbers. He's not a two-way player. He's just a scorer, which is really honestly what the Red Wings needed. I think if you have a line of like Tarasenko, Compher, Raymond, that would be a pretty good second line.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, you can just mix and match things. Like we all know how the coaches do it. When things aren't really going your way, you got to put your lines in a blender and see what works, see what doesn't. It's really all going to come down to who has the most chemistry with him. If it's Larkin or if it's Comfer, Raymond's, whatever it is, whatever works, you got to keep them together. So I could see either first or second line winger for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely think, it really just all depends on the coaching, how they feel, but I think it's going to be really a mix and matching game. We saw it plenty of times last season. In terms of the power play, it's going to be very interesting how they structure the power plays because, like Carlos said, you can front load the first power play unit, and then you look at the second power play unit. And we'll kind of touch on this further down the line when we get into development camp, talking about the younger players. But imagine having a second power play unit where it's a lot of the younger guys, right? I mean, like someone like Lucas Raymond, Sider, Berggren, if Casper, Danielson makes the lineup, or like Mazer, that would be very interesting to see too. And then adding Vladimir Tarasenko or like a Patrick Kane or Alex DeBrincat in there. One veteran guy, I think that would be really cool to see. So yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But real quick, boys, over under 60 points for Tarasenko. I think he can hit the over. If it all goes well, obviously. If he plays a full 82 game season, I think he's over 60.
Yeah, I was just gonna say if he plays 82, I can see him cracking over 60.
I'm gonna go slightly under 60 points, but I think 30 goals is probably a good benchmark for him. I think he'd get 30 goals. I really do. If he plays with someone like Larkin, like we know how good he is at creating plays out of nothing. Like he's gonna absolutely feast with Larkin. So I think I'm not saying that if he doesn't score 30 goals, that's a disappointing season. He may not do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 30.
Yeah, that's a good take. So I shouldn't say it like this. One of the reasons why the Red Wings were able to sign Vladimir Tarasenko is because right after Steve Yzerman and the Detroit Red Wings trade Robby Fabbri and a conditional 4th round pick in the 2025 NHL draft, traded that to the Anaheim Ducks for Gage Alexander, who is a goalie who should be going to the Toledo Walleye. Not the greatest numbers. He is a big boy. I believe he's 6'6". I don't have it pulled up right in front of me. I probably should. But I do remember that he was under a 900 save percentage in both the AHL and the ECHL. This is now like the 20th goalie that Steve Yzerman has brought onto the team. So, but I think it's pretty clear that this is depth Toledo signing. So, is there potentially some hidden gem in this guy? That's a big boy, 6'6". So that's Elmer Soderblom and that. I was talking to my dad about it, and he's like, "That's the walrus from the Geico hockey commercial." Just literally all the pucks. Yeah. So, real quick thoughts on it, if you guys have any. Great. It frees up that cap space, that $4 million. There really was no spot for Fabbri. So overall, I think it's a win-win for both teams. They get a 20 goal scorer. If he plays a healthy full season, he can put up 20 goals, I believe. So yeah, we get the cap space.
Man, I get that it's a win-win, but I'm gonna miss Robby Fabbri, man. I really did love him. He was honestly one of my favorite players on the team, to be honest. Like the way that guy, he's overcome so many hardships in his career. I mean, what is he, like, torn his ACL 3 times? He keeps coming back stronger than ever. The guy just, like, he doesn't give up. He works his butt off. Great energy guy for the bottom 6. I mean, honestly, you might see him in the top 6 in Anaheim. Things are not looking great over there. Who knows where he's going to slot in? Probably a little overpaid for what he actually is. But, yeah, I'm going to miss him. And, this is definitely the way to do a cap dump trade. Not like Wallman in the second for future considerations. Like, you get a goalie. I love that Yzerman's just getting goalies, man. Like, goalies are absolute voodoo. Who knows what's going to happen? Jet Campbell that they got in free agency, he was a starter for the Maple Leafs, 2 years ago? And then he was in the AHL this past year. So they're voodoo, man. Who knows? One of them is going to pan out. So just keep getting goalies.
I don't mean to derail or go off topic here, but Matt brought something up about Jake Wallman. And I know I asked this last week when we were chatting with Greg at Grindline. I think that Wallman deal was totally premature.
So then there was another deal after the Fabbri deal. It was Matt Savoy. Buffalo traded Matt Savoy to Edmonton for I can't remember. McLeod. Yeah. And I was very shocked at that. And someone had tweeted out, I can't remember, so I can't give them credit. They were like, this is legit proof between Yzerman and the Buffalo Sabres GM that not every GM calls all 31 other teams in the NHL. Yeah. It's clear that does not happen. And I don't want to say shame on them for not doing their homework and due diligence to see what they can get. But just like how, going back to when we talked about it with Greg, I really think it's just as simple as I don't want to have a conversation about it. Just take the second. I don't want to deal with it. Whereas for Anaheim, they had a reason to do it, right? Where they need a cap. So they're the ones who probably came to Steve, or maybe it was vice versa, where Steve was like, hey, I see you need cap. Robby Fabbri, just take him. We'll give you a fourth. Give us this goaltender. We need one for Toledo, right? So different circumstance, but the more it keeps on playing out, the more it does seem like there's something behind with Jake Walman. And I'm not here to speculate. I'm really not trying to put anything out there. But the more it comes out, the more it seems like that there's more that we just don't know about. And Steve had to figure it out, and that was his way of doing it.
Either Steve really wanted to get rid of Walman for whatever reason that he has, which whatever, or Steve just does not value a second-round pick as much as we do.
I mean, Carla, going back to the Fabbri trade, trying not to go deep into the rabbit hole because we do have quite a bit to talk about. And we're pretty much only on the third topic so far. But yeah, I mean, like the fourth round pick, that's easy to give up, right? The percentage of that becoming something relevant, that's probably like less than 1%.
Yeah,
right? The second round pick, you've talked about it, you've brought it up before. I think that's only like a 10% chance that a second round pick, and that was like a mid to late second round pick that we traded away that we technically never even had to begin with. The only thing we really gave up was Andrew Gibson. We got Gage Alexander and cap space out of the whole everything that happened. Everything that happened. So
I don't mean to go again. I didn't mean to go totally off there, but I just seeing that
appreciate it.
Seeing that Fabbri deal, it really kind of made me start grinding my teeth on that whole Walman thing, and then I started like, well, do we not value second round picks? Blah, 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 whatever, folks. Why don't you tell us what you think? Throw it in the comments. What's your take on that? Understanding this deal, and maybe there's going to be some more deals to come that we can use as comps to really kind of understand it a little bit better. But
and we'll talk
curious
about
on your thoughts. Totally. Yeah.
We'll talk about that as this continues. Yeah, I'm gonna miss Robby Fabbri. The only I liked Robby Fabbri as a player. I never did like the signing. Never did. I remember as soon as it happened, I was like, that's an overpayment. It's not gonna work out well. He always reminded me of, this isn't to really rip on Fabbri, but every time he was out there on a shift, he was always down on the ice on his knees, like falling something. But like someone in our recent video with Greg in the comments was asking about Fabbri, and I told him, like, look, to be honest, he's always falling on the ice on every shift, but he plays his heart out. He's a guy that you love to have on your team. He puts his heart in every shift that he's out there, and that's probably why he's always on the ground, because he goes so hard.
He does. He's a gamer. He absolutely is.
He really is. So Robby Fabbri, enjoy the sunshine state of California, please. I know that's technically Florida, but yeah, it's California.
I think one more thing about Robby Fabbri is I think a lot of women in the Metro Detroit area are crying right now because the Italian stallion is no longer around. Dude, I went to a lot of Red Wings games, and when they like do the players on the Jumbotron announcing the lineup, they go, "Oh, Fabbri daddy. Oh yeah." Like everybody loved him. So I just had to bring that up.
So the Detroit Red Wings held development camp right after it was pretty much right after the draft. So like all week, Pavel Datsyuk, he was in Michigan, who was inducted into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Datsyuk.
Big claps to Pabs. Big. Yeah.
Definitely one of the most dynamic players I think we all can say that we've had the privilege to watch in our lifetime. I was a huge fan. He was definitely one of the main reasons why I got into liking hockey outside of my dad. Pavel Datsyuk was just, there's a reason why they call him Magic Man, the magician. He will not sign that on any autographs that you ask him. So just to let you boys know, supposedly he does not write that on anything that you want autographed. I don't know why. Maybe that's trademarked by a magician somewhere. Who knows? But
I think he's just a really humble guy, man.
I do too.
He's just super humble.
Yeah, really, really good guy. My buddy Jeff went to go meet him. I met him back in 2013. That was when he was here. That was the first time since then. So, congratulations once again. But yeah, he was in development camp. A lot of players were like having that holy shit moment. That's Pavel Datsyuk. So I would too, being an 18, 19, maybe 20-year-old kid, if you're that age being there, which some of them are. But yeah, if you're at that tournament, that's definitely a guy you want to learn from. And I think a lot of the kids maybe could have been a language barrier there, but if you watched his interview after one of the development camp days, that dude's got freaking jokes, dude. He is so funny.
He's hilarious.
He is hilarious, man. He has got jokes. One quick thing I want to bring up. I loved that he touched on the fact that he was almost traded. I thought that was really like, it was almost like a subtle diss to the Red Wings. And like, yeah, you guys almost traded me, but I still got love for this organization. I love Detroit. So that man better have number 13 up in the rafters. I don't know how soon, but I think he's well deserved to be put up in the rafters.
He's already said about that, right? He was like,
they did ask him about that. Yeah,
it's an unlucky number. He's like, don't put 13 in the rafters.
He did say that. Yeah, he was like, well, why would they do that? That's number 13, unlucky.
It's an unlucky number. We don't want the cursed team.
But then he says, yeah, I'm a lucky boy to be inducted at the Hockey Hall of Fame. I'm a lucky boy. He's so funny.
He's so awesome, man. Pabs is so good.
Really great guy. But then I believe it was yesterday or Friday. I can't remember what day it was. Pardon me. We're recording on Sunday. It's currently noon right now. The 3-versus-3 tournament takes place. Can't remember all the teams, but Team Watson did win. There's a couple players that we obviously want to touch on. Michael Brantzig-Nygaard, who was on Team Watson, the winning team. I'm not exactly sure how many points he ended up getting throughout the whole tournament, but he did score the first goal in the whole entire tournament. And it was a really good goal by Michael Brantzig-Nygaard. And so, and obviously a lot of these are going to be breakaway goals. A lot of these are going to be, okay, yeah, let's see him do that in a game. But nonetheless, the kid is good. He looked really good out there. He looked very confident, really poised, and he did not look out of place out there. And you can tell that he is over 200 pounds too, because he was really hard to get off the puck when he did have it on his stick. And so another player that we're going to talk about too, obviously Nate Danielson, who had 3 goals in the first 2 games alone. One of them was technically a shootout goal to decide the winner of a game, but I'm still going to count it as a third goal. And one of his goals went with a little back and forth action where he missed on the first one, but he had some filthy stick handling skills out there when he tried to put that one 5-hole, it looked like, and then went down the ice, came back the other way around, and then finally was able to put it in. So I was very active on Twitter about the whole entire tournament. But you guys, Matt, Carlo, thoughts on the 3-versus-3 tournament? Some players that stood out to you. ASP also looked really good. Plant, the second round pick in this year's draft, looked really good. A lot of players looked really good this year. And much like, I think it was Cleary who said this was one of the better development camps that we've ever had. So thoughts overall on the tournament, development camp, everything.
Well, I mean, I made my thoughts pretty much known on Twitter when I retweeted what you posted about Danielson. I mean, that kid is just absolutely silky. Like, he impresses me more and more every time I see him. He really honestly does. From watching him in Brandon, then going over to Portland, now development camp. I mean, every time I see this guy, I think he gets better. He really honestly does. Like, his two-way game is super solid. He's just so good. Like, he's so impressive. Another player that I don't think you shouted out was Emmett Finney, who looked really good. He looked really good with that Rishlovsky, or however you say his name.
Yeah,
also looked really good too.
Yes.
I mean, he has a finishing touch right there, and I mean, I love his hockey hair too. That's flowing out the helmet. It looks majestic. He literally looks like a late '80s player. So he's already got the NHL look down. Yeah, I think I don't know if it's confirmed if he's going to be in Grand Rapids this year, but if he is, I think he's going to have a pretty strong year. I think he might be a hidden gem, honestly. He looks really good, man. I mean, he looks the part so far. So I think those 2 players, they really impressed me.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Danielson, you nailed it. He really does get better and better every time there's a camera on him. It's quite awesome. Very reassuring as well.
He seems more mature too.
Yeah, he does, man.
A lot.
Very, very well. You know what? I kind of noticed that it wasn't really that long ago, but a few months ago when he made his way into GR for their playoff run and he started getting some interviews and whatnot. And I started paying attention to those and it seems like very, very mature kid. And kudos to him. I mean, he seems to be all business and that's, again, kudos to you. I mean, you're staying focused. You're doing what you have to do to stay in the game. Right on. But he does. I really do hope that he has a good prospects tournament and everything coming up in TC. That way, he can make a push for that team because I really do think he is going to be a delight to watch. And I honestly think that he will get better and better and better if he were to crack opening night roster. I think that would be a really good developmental move for a guy like Nate Danielson. I don't think that's a great move for every single prospect we have, but I think him in particularly, I think that would be an ideal developmental path is get him on the wings, pull a Lucas Raymond. Look what it did for him. And
Dylan Larkin
Dylan Larkin. Yeah, man. I think he just has that characteristic in him where he's mature enough to hang with the boys. And I think he could be a fast-tracked. I really do. Because like you said, he's getting better and better every time there's a camera on the guy. He looks great.
So you kind of took the question away from me. Do you, and I was going to ask this, do you guys believe that Nate Danielson could make the Detroit Red Wings opening night roster? Because I firmly do believe that. We asked that on Twitter. 69% of the people who voted, there was 180 votes or something like that. 69% of the voters said yes, he will make, or they could see him make the opening night roster. And I don't blame him. Much like you said, Carlo, the kid is poised. He's already got the frame. He's already got the skill set. Look what they did with Dylan Larkin when he was drafted. He played 1 year in Michigan. Okay, that's a step above the WHL. Fine. That's fine. But he was so good enough that he got invited to go to play with Grand Rapids in 2 games when they were deep in their playoff run. If that's how you want to say it, deep second round or third round, however you look at it, and playing in a top role with the Portland Winterhawks. And there was a reason why they made it all the way to the finals. So this kid, if you put him in the Red Wings lineup, there's a spot there on the third line, I believe. You can put him on the wing.
Yep.
Dylan Larkin at least got to play with Zetterberg. I'm not saying should you put Nate Danielson with Larkin? No. But yeah, Carlo, much like you said, development-wise, to me, it makes the most sense for Nate Danielson to be on the roster the whole season. I really don't know what he can learn in GR that he wouldn't be able to in Detroit, and I really don't think he would be that much out of place. And I think the Red Wings are in a spot now where they can allow one of their prospects to make that jump, and I do think it's Nate Danielson to learn night in and night out. I really do think that's Nate Danielson.
I could also see a path where they start him in GR just to conquer some goodness in GR. Because let's face it, he came to Grand Rapids, he played a few games. They weren't really that great of games. Let's call a spade a spade.
Correct.
They weren't that great. So I can see a world where they maybe start him off in Grand Rapids to really get his feet wet. Right. And get him contributing, get him scoring, get him playing into the system, get a good understanding of that. And then I can also see him coming up for the latter half of the regular season for the Red Wings. I could see that being a little bit of an option as well. But nonetheless, I do think we will see Danielson rocking the winged wheel at some point this year, whether it's opening night or if it's, January. I think there's going to be something there. I think they're going to do what they should have did with Edvinsson last season. That's what I think they might go for.
And it really just all comes down to camp, right? I mean, the 3 players on forward, Berggren and Johansson, Steve in his press conference, which we will talk about here pretty soon, already said Berggren and Johansson, they're on the roster. They technically have to be. They're already on the team. So the 3 players that you basically have to look and see who's the best one out of this group to make the lineup, because the Red Wings, they have to pick one. They only have 8 forwards or 9 forwards signed currently. You add Lucas Raymond, then that's 10. Then Berggren, that's 11. You have to add at least 2 more somewhere. So who are you picking? Who's going to have the best camp? Is it Danielson? Is it Casper? Or is it Mazur? To me, Carlo, you keep on saying Mazur's 170 pounds.
Yeah, dude, he's going to get mauled. If he hasn't put on 15 pounds this summer, he is going to get mauled.
Then there's Casper. He's someone who had a better second half in the Grand Rapids system, but that's someone I can see who needs to be that guy in the lineup and for the team. I think that he can play a really important role in Grand Rapids. Could he do that for Detroit? Sure. But for now, I see that as a fourth liner. I think Nate Danielson can provide something on that third line for the Detroit Red Wings right now, almost kind of like Christian Fischer, but with more scoring ability. That's my argument. Matt, what do you think? We haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, it's so hard to really choose between the two, Casper and Danielson, because I think both their game is very similar, but I think Danielson's is like a little bit higher slightly than Casper's. I think as it stands right now, I'd have to give a slight edge to Casper, just given the fact that he has a full year of playing in GR under his belt, and he's been in a playoff run with them. Yeah. I might have to give the edge to him. Like, they both play a very mature, like, pro style game. And I think when you're choosing between the two, Yzerman really likes like playoff experience, which is what, they both got experience, but Casper got it in a league. It's above the WHL. Like, the AHL was objectively a higher skill, harder league to play in than the WHL. So I think I'd have to give the edge to him, but honestly, it wouldn't shock me if we get down to the final preseason game and it's those two duking it out for that last roster spot. I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, Yzerman pretty much already confirmed that Bergman's going to be on the roster, and it's really nice to hear that Yzerman actually has like high expectations for him, because I do too. I mean, I've been vocal about how much I love Bergman. I think he's a great player, perfect for the middle six. Yeah, it's between those two. They can't both make it. I think no matter what happens, they're going to have this coaching staff and Steve Yzerman, they're going to have a very hard decision on that last playoff game, that last preseason game. So, but yeah, as it stands right now, just experience-wise, I'd give the edge to Casper.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's a right or wrong pick between...
No, not at all.
Even the three players, like, you can throw Mazur in there. I really don't think that there's a wrong player, but you definitely have to pick the one that suits the need that you're looking for in the lineup. Yes. Like, what are you looking for? So far, based on the Red Wings signings, it looks like they're going for size. And when I say size, sturdy boys out there, right? Like Tyler Motte, not the biggest, but he's over 190 pounds. Tarasenko, 225. I don't know how big Gustafson is. I can pull that up real quick here, but yeah, it seems like that they wanted to go for a specific kind of player to add to their lineups. And that's another reason why I could see someone like Nate Danielson, because he's over 200 pounds already, So it's going to be interesting to see on which direction that Steve Yzerman, Derek Lalonde go towards. Yeah, Gustafson, 196 pounds. So close to 200. Yeah, they definitely want to fit as big of people as they can. Is that Casper? Is that Mazur? It's a little the complete opposite, but maybe that's what they want to add. So we'll just have to wait and see. Let us know down in the comments what you think, if it's going to be Nate Danielson, Marco Casper, or Carter Mazur. Love to hear from you guys.
Maybe we'll put up a poll too.
I just think whoever it is, like, let's say, for example, it's Casper. I don't think that we're going to be sitting there and just being like, well, this guy sucks. Why didn't Danielson or Mazur make it over him? Whoever makes it is going to be impactful. They're going to make it because the coaching staff and Yzerman think that they can handle the pressure of playing in the NHL. So,
well, in worst case,
it's going to be good.
Yeah,
you think they all get looks?
You send them back, and then
that's what I'm saying. Like, do you think that they all get a couple games to get their looks in?
And that could be it too. The first week or two of the season, we could be seeing some players getting 3 games. You send them down and then call up the next one just to see, which one really is, but that's TBD, to be decided for the coaching staff and general manager of the Detroit Red Wings, who they don't pay us enough to do something like that. And I would not agree to any kind of job like that, because I would get hate mail left and right. So let's go into the press conference and finish this one out, boys. But before I do, Team Watson did win the tournament. Players on that team were MBN, Dosette, Liam Dower-Nilsson, Hunter Johannes, who had a really good tournament.
Yes, he did.
Chase, I'm sorry, I'm not even going to attempt that. Max Planty or Plants, Gabriel Seeger, Brady Cleveland, Marcus Kiersey, Larry Keenan, Jack Phelan, and then Andrew Oak.
He looked he looked solid. Oak looked good.
Like I said, I don't think that there was really a bad player in this whole entire dev camp. I mean, it's not really like you're not really judging people either, right? They're just it's what Draper always says, it's what Cleary says, like they're not really there to evaluate their players. They are, but it's for those players to learn.
Yeah,
but,
I think we should keep in mind that like these players are probably playing at like 20% of their capacity. Like it's not a real NHL game. Like it didn't seem like they're going as hard as they could, you know.
For sure. They're also playing 3-on-3. I'd be gassed.
I would be gassed.
3-on-3.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like a scrimmage, right? Like, and that's what makes Danielson even more impressive. I don't think Danielson is even playing at like 50% what he can do. That's just, you know, I think it's the same for everyone.
I do want to bring up, I can't remember who it was, but I did tweet it out there. There was a play where someone was going in and there was a huge boom laid out there. I can't remember who it was.
Whipple.
Yes, Whipple. Yes.
I remember that.
Who was he, the 3rd or 4th round pick for the Red Wings in this year's draft? Whipple. He's a fan favorite of mine now. That boy laid the boom stick on that guy.
Yeah, that guy is like pretty Cleveland, but if he was good at hockey.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen that video, that is on Twitter somewhere. You can go find
Whipple whippled somebody. It was awesome.
Yeah. Is that going to be the new Cronwall? You just got Cronwall. You got Whipple.
You got whippled.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the Steve Yzerman press conference covering the free agency and any other question under the moon and stars that Helene St. James and company want to ask Steve Yzerman. So, no Art Ragnar. Haven't heard his beautiful voice in a while and miss him, that beautiful soul. But some of the things that Steve Yzerman covered, these aren't exactly word for word. It's very difficult to keep up. But just to kind of summarize everything, broken down, Steve says that he does plan on keeping Husso and ride 3 tendies this year. After saying at the ending of last year, or right before the ending of last year, saying it wasn't ideal. Like, we don't want to do that. So he's going against that now. Thinks more moves could come, but who knows what that means? Literally, who knows what that means? More moves could come. What does that mean? That could just mean, we're going to bring up Nate Danielson. That's kind of what I take from it. He says he couldn't afford to keep the same decor. I don't know about that one. You saw what Shane Ghost Bear got, right? And so I get it on the term perspective. There was $6.8 million on defense sitting in the stands, and he didn't like that. That makes complete sense. There were at times two defensemen setting up in the press box, whether if that was Hall, which was majority of the time, Petrie, Sherratt, Motte, Shane Ghost Bear, Wallman. They all got set, you know? So says we were fortunate to not have a lot of injuries, and that's why some players didn't get a lot of time. That makes sense. And knock on wood, you know, hopefully the same thing doesn't happen this season where a lot of injuries don't happen. But the Red Wings were very fortunate. They were very fortunate. Like, Larkin could have been out a lot longer. We were very fortunate. Patrick Kane was not long-term. Alex DeBrincat, Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider still has his Ironman streak going. So we're very fortunate there. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? So far, it does not sound like Steve will make a move on defense, but I'm going to call his bluff on that. There's no way you're rocking 9 defensemen this upcoming season. Trying to build a core that will be here for a number of years. That is a huge takeaway. That is the Yzerman plan. That is the Yzer plan. People need to stop confusing what the Yzer plan is. This has been the plan all along. Remember 5 years ago, Steve walked in to nothing, absolutely nothing. Go look up the roster, okay? I'm getting a little upset. I don't know why, but my voice is being raised. Steve thinks they're in a similar spot as last year and hopes no up and down games as much as last year. There were a lot. You go back and watch some season highlights, a lot of games where they were down by 5. They were able to come back. They were up by 3. They lost that lead and then somehow came back, or they just lost the lead. A lot of up and down games. It was a roller coaster. Hopefully it's not the same this season.
Yes.
Steve just said that. Steve was asked about being on big free agents and said it wasn't worth the roster reconstruction that would have been needed to be done. That instantly speaks Steven Stamkos. Matt Roy even. Some of these contracts that were handed out, we talked about it with Greg. It was like 2016, but not to the same extent. Just a lot of term given out. You probably could have stomached some of that cap because the cap does increase year after year now, which is awesome. But those terms, that will put you in the same spot as you were 3 years ago, right? And you don't want that. So good on Steve for understanding and recognizing that. He was asked about Shane, couldn't find a deal that worked for both sides. Right there, that screams term. He probably only wanted to bring him back for a year, maybe 2 at max. I think he got 3, maybe 4 with Carolina.
I think he got 3.
Wasn't keen on giving term and dollars to key role players like some players got in free agency. Once again, that just touches on what I just mentioned. He does expect Berggren and Johansson to be in the lineup. We talked about that. And then Carlo, you add in here, only surprise to Steve in free agency was the amount of term and dollar being handed out to role players. Yeah. So we touched on that. Yeah. So Carlo, I'll let you go first. Touch on whatever you want. You wanted to talk about Ghost Bear too.
Well, you couldn't afford to keep the same decor. Now, one might argue, well, I think it's possible. However, I think Shane went to Carolina because let's once again call a spade here. Carolina's closer to the cup than the Detroit Red Wings are. You're going to take a discount to be on a team that's closer to the cup.
And you're familiar with them.
Of course. He played there, right? So I think that kind of explains that. But when it comes to the specifics on I couldn't afford to keep the same decor, you're looking at it as, well, I either keep the same decor, pay a little bit more than I want to, or it's like I'm going to eliminate this plug player and bring up Edvinsson. What does Edvinsson look like for a full year? That could be a crazy positive impact to our decor. And then the same thing with Albert Johansson, man. I keep saying it over and over again. I am big on Eljo. Big. I think he's going to be underrated. And both these guys are coming in on ELCs. So when you compare decor versus decor with Edvinsson and Johansson, it kind of makes sense to go that route because A, you have to, B, it's way cheaper, and C, now it allows you to put that money that is no longer being dished out to the decor, maybe to the forward core for, hey, trade deadline, maybe to the goalkeeping system, depending on what happens there. Maybe someone has a crazy, 25 games and they get flipped, right? Who knows? But then Detroit can go and, again, it's trade deadline. You know what Max Bultman said? I thought that was hilarious. Maybe we'll see Steve at the trade deadline. Maybe we'll see something big come there. Why? Because we have the money to do it. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that because he's still giving us a chance to make some moves even after the season starts. I'm taking that all day. So all in all, I thought his presser was a typical Steve Yzerman presser. I guess my wrap up on it. I believe absolutely nothing that he says, as per usual. And this all could go to shit in a week, depending on what he decides to do. So, Matt, I will turn it over to you.
Before you go, Matt, just to touch on it, because Carlo did bring up cap space. So the Red Wings do have just over $20 million. They do have to sign Moritz Seider, Lucas Raymond, Jonathan Berggren, and Joseph Foligno still. So keep that in mind. But yes, they will have cap to weaponize at the trade deadline. At least you hope so. We'll just have to wait and see how these contracts play out. But yes, Matt, what was your takeaways from the presser? Go on.
Yeah, so pretty much just the big takeaway is the fact that he was surprised that so much term is being thrown around. I share that sentiment with him because there are a lot of players. I'm not going to name any specific names because honestly the list is too long. Let's just call it a lot of the players got really, really big deals for too much term and too much money. I think, screw it, I'll just name one. I think if Steve Yzerman did the Chandler Stevenson deal, we'd all be calling for his head. That deal is absolutely horrendous. That Matt Roy deal, he's not a bad player, but I would not pay him a 7x7. Same with Brady Shea. Here I go. I'm naming names even though I said I wouldn't. But those are some examples of players, right? And I think there's two reasons for that. I think number one, Steve Yzerman, like last year and 2 years ago in free agency, he's already done his big deals. He gave out term to Andrew Kopp, JT Compher, Ben Sherratt, some other players. Some of those are kind of working out. Some have mixed results. I'm not really going to get into the details. Everybody knows. But yeah, I don't think he was in a position to do that again. You saw every deal that he made. It was 1 and 2 year deals. Yeah. And I think that was just because he sees these players as fitting a role that the team needs, that there are certain prospects that look to be graduating this year or next year that can fill that role. I mean, are we really certain that Brantig Nygaard isn't going to be a top 6 forward in 2 years? I can't really say for certain that he won't be. You know, I think there's a lot of guys knocking on the door that can really take a role on this team. So, yeah, that's why you see that we have Comfer and Kopp here for a few more years, and they're really here just to have a veteran presence and kind of teach the new guys how to play, right? Those are 2 guys, well, really one guy, Comfer won the Cup a few years ago, that, you know, can teach the young guys how to win. I mean, that's really the best way you develop young guys on the roster. You get them on there and playing with veterans who knows what it takes to win in the NHL. They've done it before. Tarasenko's done it twice. He literally did it this past year, like 2 weeks ago that he did it, you know? So he's really going to be a good presence to teach the young guys how to win. And yeah, I think that was the big takeaway for me, was just a lot of these deals. Yeah, it would be awesome to have Marchessault on this team. It would be awesome to have Stamkos on this team. I don't want Marchessault for 5 years. I don't want Stamkos for 4 years, especially $8 million. There's really not a whole lot of deals out there that I would have signed myself. I think really my favorite deal was the Teuvo Teravainen deal in Chicago.
Yeah, that was a good deal.
I think he would have been a really good top 6 winger, and I don't think if he's there for 3 years, it would have necessarily blocked anyone from getting on the roster. You know, when you have a guy who's got like 1 year left on his deal, you can just flip him with the deadline, 2 years left on his deal. Like, it's not really a big deal. So, yeah, I think like 90% of the deals that were signed, I would stay very, very far away from, even though I do like the players that got signed, and I think they would help us. So that was my main takeaway.
Nice.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway from all of this is that it's Steve is just filling potholes in the state of Michigan right now with this team. You know, he definitely did a good job at maneuvering the cap around to fit in players like Mo Seider, Lucas Raymond, adding players like Tarasenko. So I want to give him credit for being able to do that. It's not the easiest to do. As much as we like to pretend that we're armchair GMs on Cap Friendly, it's not as easy as we think it is. And so tough decisions have to be made. But yeah, the decision between Shane Gosberg and Eric Gustafsson, you might be losing some points there, but you got better defensively, and then you got them for cheaper, right? So that, I think that's a huge win. Same thing with Jake Wallman. Not only did you save $3.4 million this year, you saved it for next year too. Next year's free agency pool is huge. We did a poll on it. It's still up and active, I believe, during this time of recording. You can have your take a crack at Leon Draisaitl, Mitch Marner, or Mikko Rantanen, and take your pick. Majority of you have selected Leon Draisaitl. I get that. That's awesome. And you're expected to have almost $30 million in cap space next year if Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond come in around $16-17 million combined. That's about the cap space that you're looking at. So you can toss $15 million per year at Leon Draisaitl if you truly wanted to. And yes, I'm okay with doing that. You can come in a little bit lower. Sure, I'm just tossing out a number out there, but you can make that happen. That's a franchise player that you don't want to let go and that you can scoop up for 7 years. That's not Nate Danielson. That's not Marco Kasper. That's not MBN. That's not Dylan Larkin. You can then put Dylan Larkin as the 2C if you wanted to put Leon Draisaitl up there as the 1C. So there's a bigger plan with this. And I know a lot of people in Red Wings fandom, they're like, hey, it's been X amount of years since they made the playoffs. You know, I'm sick of getting these plug-in players, you know. This is a pathway for the youth to come up. Yeah, exactly. That's correct. That's exactly what this is. Why are you so surprised by it still? This has been the plan all along. This is the Yzer plan. And so the biggest takeaway, going back to that for me, is that I think Steve did a really good job at just maneuvering cap and making everything work to the way that he wanted, and realizing that, yeah, some of these contracts I made mistakes with, and then I have to own up to them and I have to correct it now. And so he did a good job at that. And so he's a man of his word, and he's doing everything he can to make this a competitive team, signing Tarasenko, getting the defense more defensive responsible. Can't tell you guys how many times. I mean, remember, guys, how many times did we scream at the TV because they couldn't get the puck out of their defensive end for a minute at a time?
Yeah,
it was
getting the
ridiculous.
puck out of the front of the net. We even said, Carlo, you're like, you can put in prime Dominik Hasek, prime Henrik Lundqvist with our defense, and he's still letting in 4 to 5 goals night in, night out.
So
So
yeah, it's not on the goalie. It's not on the goalie at all. But
and then and then going back to the forward end, you upgraded from David Perron, you upgraded from Daniel Sprong, you upgraded from a bunch of players. You brought back Christian Fischer. So credit to Steve Yzerman. I think this team's going to be a lot better, much like you said, Carlo. Full season of Edvinsson, full season of Kane. We get a full season of Tarasenko, hopefully a full season of Dylan Larkin. Seider can keep playing a full season. Can Raymond get to that extra level, right? I don't think he's done. So
that's a very big point with Raymond and Seider. You know, people get it just kind of dawned on me, like people were really kind of upset that no big names or big fishes were signed by Detroit. But maybe Yzerman's truly believing that we already have the big fish in Raymond.
I joked about that, didn't I? In our group chat a while ago, I was like, watch Steve say, oh, these are our big free agents.
Yes.
And you guys were like, oh, dear God, I hope not. But that's what it's looking like right now.
Yeah, and you have to kind of let things ride out because we don't know what Raymond's fully capable of yet. Go take a look at his age. He's literally still growing. Like
22?
Biologically, he is still growing. So we can't go and flip out because he didn't go and sign Marchie or Stammer or Arvidsson or whoever. We might already have these guys. And then when you have all these guys, and if Steve does go sign Stamkos, he nailed it. The roster construction that you would need to do to afford Stamkos and Raymond, who might be in the same breath one day, that's going to be insane. So I think we need to really kind of take a look at this team as it is right now and give these players a little bit more respect and a little more time and let Yzerman keep doing what he's doing. I love what he's doing. Do we have some plug players on the team? Yes. But they're for 1-year deals, 2-year deals. Yeah, so does every other team. But look, we're not handing out term. We're not handing out dollars, man. Go look at the roster construction right now. He just gave us a complete Brinks truck to back up to whoever we want next UFA.
Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe even at trade deadline this year. So we got to see how things go. We did not get worse. I don't think we got worse now that we have this lineup that we're looking at. I think we are the same team. I think we let in less goals. Do we score the same amount of goals? I hope so.
TBD.
But I think we let in less goals, and I think that's very important.
Yeah. One more thing that I did want to say, really just quick, want to touch on is, Mo and Lucas, they still need their deals done. And Steve Yzerman was very clear that it was going to be kind of tough to get signings done in free agency because of those two things that need to be done. So, yeah, this is not a team that can spend to the cap. They're not a cup contender yet. Certainly playoffs are in the realm of possibility, and I hope they do happen next year, and I think they can. But if they get in, I'm not expecting this team to make a run to the cup. So I don't think they should spend like they are a cup contender. Look at Washington's roster. What do we say? They were like 10 million over the cap.
Oh man,
that is not an inspiring roster at all. Like their defense looks pretty good, but their forward group is very uninspiring. So I'm glad that we didn't do that with our team because who knows what direction that team's going in. So I just want to touch on that. I'm happy with the shorter term deals. They're players that can help us now, and they won't block any of the young guys from getting in. And our two young, very important franchise players can still get their deals done.
Matt, you bring up a really good point, and not to go off topic, deep rabbit hole, because we're actually done with this episode, but you bring up a really good point because you pull up the Washington Capitals. Cap friendly is still up, believe it or not, but their projected cap is minus $13.3 million. And then with LTR candidates, they're over $4.1 million. But it's the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because these are two teams that tied. They were the team that got to the playoffs because of a tiebreaker, right? Because of regulation wins or whatever it was. They were essentially the same teams last year. Look at the difference in the off seasons, right? But Washington, the previous 5 years, if you look at that, we were bottom feeder. They were a team who were consistently in the playoffs. They're taking a bigger risk. That GM put their job on the line for what they did, going out and getting Pierre-Luc Dubois, Tom Wilson's insane contract that they signed a while ago. I don't even know who this Protas guy is. Maybe he's a good player, but the Matt Roy deal, Rasmus Sandin, you look at their goaltending, it's Charlie Lindgren, who could be good, and then Logan Thompson, Nicholas Backstrom, he's on LTIR. They got Evgeny Kuznetsov retained salary. So this team to me got better, but not anywhere better than they were last year. And so for them, they have a lot more to lose. And so it's like, to me, the only reason why I brought this up, it's just so crazy to see how it's just two different spectrums where like some fans, that's what they wanted to see the Red Wings go and do. And I can tell you guys right now, what Washington did, they're going to be bad in a year or two. Mark my words, watch it right now. They are going to be really, really bad. And so be thankful that Steve Yzerman didn't go out and do what that general manager did.
Yeah, that's
there.
a really
I just wanted to put it out there that there's two different worlds, right? That's exactly what some Red Wings fans wanted.
That's not.
We're on this side.
We don't have to do that. Because look at that. Look at Washington. They have like one of the worst prospect pools. I mean, it's a little bit better now, but they're not like the Red Wings where they have like 5 guys knocking on the door to get on. So they're going to need to sign longer term deals. Same with teams like Boston who don't have any prospects. Like they're in completely different situations where they need to find people in free agency and lock them up for as long as they can, because there is not help coming. There is not a stud defenseman in Boston's prospect pool that is looking to be in the top 4 soon. That's why they need to get Zadorov. They don't have maybe they have Patra who could be a 2C, but that remains to be seen. They still need more than that. That's how a lot of teams are that lock up these big deals. They just don't have the young guys that can help. So if you're looking for the Red Wings to do that, we might as well start trading our prospects because they're not coming up anytime soon. There's no spot for them. So I'm glad we didn't do that, because we've all been saying we want the team to get younger. We remember how pissed off we were when Bergen wasn't on the roster last year and Edmondson didn't make the team. Now look, they have spots. They're going to be on the team and they're going to contribute, and that's because Yzerman let them do that.
All right. That's the episode. So thank you for making it this far if you did. Boys, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts are we had a debate over text yesterday. Is water actually wet, or is it just water? Let's discuss that.
Water is wet because whatever water comes into contact with becomes wet. Therefore, water is wet.
Thank you, Carlo. Are those your final thoughts?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Carlo?
Final thoughts. I still think there's another move coming. I don't mean to get everybody all hot and bothered or anything like that, but I do think there's another move coming.
Here. Hot.
Let's remind people that last year the DeBrincat trade was July 10th.
Correct. Yeah, that's true. I mean,
going strong.
That's a good point. I don't know what the move is, but if I were to take a wild guess, I think it's going to be on the defensive side or goaltending side. That's my take.
I agree.
I guess final food for thought as well. I think it was Elliot Friedman came out and said 0 teams filed for club elected arbitration yesterday. So the second or whatever it was. So we've got the 14 previously announced cases. Oh, we didn't say that. Joe Vlano elected for arbitration. Berggren, I don't think he can go into ARB. So that makes sense.
He could have, but he did not. He did not, though.
Okay. Yeah. So by Veleno going into arbitration, that does open up a second buyout window opportunity for the Detroit Red Wings. It does not look like that's going to be Ville Husso, and a lot of fans wanted Justin Hall to go, but he actually doesn't make enough. So we're stuck with him unless we trade him. Or you can just waive him. Same thing with Husso. So take a pick on what you guys want to do here.
Let's just do that. Bye-bye.
Are those your final thoughts, Carlo? Sorry for hopping into them.
Yeah, that was it. I do think there's another move coming, defensive or goaltending. Those are my final thoughts. Back to you, Zach.
Cool. And then my final thoughts are, let's go Red Wings. A lot to be excited about this upcoming season. I know a lot of people sound a little disappointed. And I think a lot of too many Red Wings fan favorite players were traded or signed to other teams. I think a lot of that brings a lot of what's the word I want to use here? Positivity down. Brings the mood down.
Brings a little bit of bitterness.
Buzzkill.
Yeah, a little bit of a buzzkill, right? And so Yeah, I think we're gonna be fine. I think Steve is right. We're pretty much in the same position as we were, if not better defensively. Maybe we lose a little bit of goal scoring, but I think the goaltending got better too by adding Cam Talbot. I think he's gonna be better than a lot of people actually think he's going to be. We've seen 40-year-old goaltenders light it up in the NHL before. So what's the difference between a 37 and a 40-year-old? 3 years. Not much.
I mean, goaltending's just that position where you can play into your 40s if you have a good defense and you're not just, you know, absolutely always flailing around in that.
And it's always good to have Mo Seider and Simon Edmondson back there. And then you got Ben Sherratt, the overnight assassin, OT Benny out there.
Damn straight.
Those are my final thoughts. We'll be fine. Yeah, thanks for joining us on this brand new episode. If you guys are returning, thank you once again for showing up. And then if you guys are new, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're still watching, hit the thumbs up. 20 likes really does go a long way for us. And then you can also find us on Spotify. If you're watching us on YouTube, I don't know where you're watching us, or if you're just listening, that's probably on Spotify, Apple Podcasts now. And then check out our merch store. And then, yeah, we're going to be announcing the winner of our giveaway for the Nicholas Lidstrom bobblehead on Twitter. So keep your DMs open and then go ahead and enter in our other giveaway that is only posted on Twitter. It is for a Hockeytown Rundown hat giveaway. We do have 2 different kinds of hats. One's a flat brim, one's a trucker hat, the dad hat, as I like to call it. Yeah, we're giving 3 of those away on Twitter. So go ahead and retweet, tag a friend, do what you got to do, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really do appreciate it. So
boom, boom. Yes, we do.
With that, we'll go ahead and close it out. Until then, we'll see y'all on the next one. See you.
Peace.